Ladies and gentlemen, this is indeed my privilege, my honor, to present our distinguished governor, Governor Chris Christie. Governor, how are you, my friend?
Good, Harry. Good morning to you and to all your listeners.
I want to say to you, congratulations on your decision, because I wrote a social media post. Hey, look, nobody picks, hey, I want to have a state takeover, starting on Monday. But if you're going to have a state takeover, your selection of our former distinguished United States Senator and our former distinguished Attorney General, Jeff Chiesa, I think you just made a fantastic choice for the state and for the citizens of Atlantic City.
Well, I appreciate that, Harry. And listen, as you know, Senator Chiesa is somebody who's provided extraordinary service to the people of the state in both those capacities, and also to me as chief counsel to the governor at the beginning of my term. He's an outstanding lawyer. But more importantly than that, he's an outstanding person who cares about getting the city of Atlantic City back on track in working with the people of Atlantic City and the leaders of Atlantic City to get the hard things done. Because if we make the difficult decisions now, Harry, and do the difficult things, there is no limit to Atlantic City's future.
When you were deciding on who you would pick, what were the qualities that you were looking for?
Honesty, integrity, someone with savvy, someone who knows how to work well with others, and someone who understands and is not afraid of making difficult decisions. And each one of those boxes, Jeff checks very, very easily and well. And I think the people of Atlantic City, the leaders of Atlantic City, will enjoy working with him. As you said, nobody wanted this result, but unfortunately this is where we are. And it's much more important to get these things done the right way than it is to worry about soothing people's feelings. We need to get it done the right way so that Atlantic City can return to the greatness that it's had over the years, and it will encourage even more businesses to come in and invest in Atlantic City and the people of the region.
Governor, here's a question I think you're going to love, because it gives you the opportunity to dispel something that I think a lot of people think. People think there was nothing Atlantic City could have done. They had the 5 months, submit this plan, and we're going to, seriously review this plan. And if the plan, makes a 5-year balanced, structurally balanced improvement in Atlantic City, then Atlantic City may have been able to continue with self-governance. Was there a plan, in your estimation, the city could have achieved that would have prevented a state takeover, or was the state takeover just, was this just a 5-month fuse, and it was always going to be a state takeover?
Harry, I wish that we wouldn't have had to have a state takeover. I have plenty to do as governor and did not need this in addition on my plate. And I'd hoped that the city would have come forward with a plan that would have been in balance. But let's start with the first prerequisite, which is put a plan that had balance. Secondly, a plan that didn't rely on ever-increasing state aid. One of the things that we said was that we wanted Atlantic City to move, because of the great assets of the city, we wanted to move off of ever-increasing state aid. That this plan didn't do that either. And so, no, there were things that could have been done. But, there's no reason to look backwards now. To look forward now, Senator Chiesa will help to lead a team of people who will come in, work with city leaders, and get a plan done that brings the budget to balance, that makes the politically difficult decisions that need to be made to do that. And I look forward to the plan that Senator Chiesa will help to execute with the members of the community and getting Atlantic City back on track. It's always been my intent. And I believe it was the intent of the state legislature when we ultimately reached this compromise.
Governor, do you have any idea? I mean, it's sort of an unfair question because he's not even in there yet. But how long a period of time do you think the state would be in the business? I wrote a column once calling you definitely didn't want to be the governor of Atlantic City. How long do you think the state would be around in this role?
I think the preface to your question is right, Harry. It's an unfair question. I just don't know. I mean, I listen. I don't want it. I guess we have the authority for up to 5 years. I'd like to see it be nowhere near that because these things should be able to get done, and hopefully, if we have the cooperation of lots of the constituencies in Atlantic City, it can get done much quicker than that kind of timeline, much quicker. And so I don't really know how long it will take, Harry, but what I know is that Senator Chiesa is ready to get down to work and to make those tough decisions, do them as quickly as he possibly can, and then have the state leave the scene because having us there for too long is not in the best interest of the people of the state, and it's certainly not in the best interest of the people of Atlantic City.
Governor Christie, I know that you're at the Republican Governors Association annual conference, and I really want to give you an opportunity, I'll just say it, you wouldn't say it like this, to take a victory lap, because your time as chairman, raising funds, going all over the country, speaking out on Republican causes. I mean, what a Tuesday, November 8th, we had all around America. There, as you know, Kentucky now, majority Republicans for the first time in quite a while. I never understood why they weren't. You know, you look at what they do typically in, national elections with senators and so on. It should have been a Republican legislature, and that's just one example. Your time as chairman, I think you have to be not only proud of it, but the results, I think, speak for themselves.
Well, I've enjoyed my time in leadership here, and I think it's important not only for our nation but for New Jersey also to continue to have more and more of our governors be led by more and more of our governors be Republicans leading their states. Think about this, Harry. 2/3 of America's states on January 20th will be led by Republicans. We'll have 33 out of 50 states will be governed by Republican governors. Extraordinary. Truly an extraordinary thing. 33 Republicans, 16 Democrats, 1 independent as of January 20th. And listen, during the Obama years, there's been quite a turn towards the Republicans. I mean, you think about it. During Barack Obama's time as president, he's lost 11 United States senators, 60 members of the House of Representatives, 14 governorships, and over 900 seats in state legislatures have gone to governors. So, it's been an incredible time to be a Republican leader in this country. And now we have a Republican president of the United States with a Republican House and Senate. So it's incumbent upon us to lead and to bring change to the country.
Governor, in terms of, what a year, several years it has been. You were a candidate for president. You made it to the big boy table. You were at all the debates in that coveted top 10. You had a podium all throughout the process. I thought one of the keys when Donald Trump was making his move to win the nomination was you were the first of the candidates that had left the race for president to step up and formally endorse Donald Trump. I know that helped him. He said from the beginning it helped him very much. You, of course, were honored with the selection as chairman of the transition team. You remain on the transition team as we speak. What can you say about that experience as candidate, then as surrogate? What are your thoughts about, and of course, the result of the 45th president-elect of the United States now, this past November 8th? What are your thoughts?
Well, listen, the first thing is what an extraordinary privilege to get the opportunity to run for president of the United States, Harry. Something that I could never dreamed of as a child and young man, to have the opportunity to run for president, to stand in the town halls in New Hampshire and Iowa and have the opportunity to talk about our country's future and how you want to contribute to it. So I would never substitute, even though I would have loved a different result, I would never substitute the opportunity to run for president for me and for my family. It was an extraordinary thing. And then, listen, Donald Trump and I have been friends for 14 years. And to me, after he came in second in Iowa, won New Hampshire 2-1, and won South Carolina with by double digits, any other person would have been called the presumptive Republican nominee after that point. So I made my decision to endorse him at the end of February of 2016 for two reasons. One, it was clear to me the voters were speaking and I was listening. And I wanted to make sure that those votes and those sentiments were honored. He was going to be the Republican nominee for president, I was convinced. Secondly, because he's a first-time candidate and because he was my friend. I wanted to get in there, and I felt like he needed someone who he trusted to help to make him a better candidate and ultimately, hopefully, help to make him a better president. And those two things have now come to pass as well, and I've contributed in the ways that I could do best. And so, whenever elections come, I say, election nights are the magic and the mystery of politics. They're incredibly transformational evenings, and often people, what they think is going to happen does not happen, and that's the mystery of politics. But the American people have spoken loudly and clearly. They've elected Donald Trump and Mike Pence as the president and vice president-elect, and it's now our job to do whatever we can to be supportive of them, because their success means the country's success.
When the president of the United States went full-throated, my legacy is on the ballot. I mean, to me, he was sort of revealing that he knew the Democratic nominee was not able to close the deal, and he went very hyper negative. It was, to me, Governor, it was very unpresidential, actually, what he was doing at the end. He was saying terrible things about, Mr. Trump being unfit and not the temperament, and he can't be president, and I'm not on the ballot, but my legacy is on the ballot. So with all the red states that Trump won and all the blue states that he turned red, can we intellectually, honestly make the assertion that Obama said this was an election about his legacy and his legacy lost?
Well, Harry, I think what you can say is just to look at the record. You look at the president's policies that people rejected. And I believe it was a rejection of his policies. And as I said before, 11 United States senators lost, 60 members of the House of Representatives lost, 14 governors lost, and over 900 seats in state legislatures across the country. Unfortunately for the president, unfortunately for the country, this was a rejection of the policies that have been put in over the last 8 years. And when I say unfortunately for the country, the people have been speaking pretty loudly. His first midterm election was a wholesale rejection of his policies and put the Republicans in charge of Congress in a very big way. And except for one blip in the middle there, they kept that control. And so, you would think to yourself that a president would hear that and change and tack his policies. As far as his rhetoric at the end, let's face it, Harry, the rhetoric in this campaign on all sides was very divisive and very discouraging to the American people at times. That's the way campaigns get often. But I think that the president-elect's speech on election night was one that was from the heart, that was designed to bring the country back together, to bind the wounds created by the 18 months of the political campaign. And I think we're well on our way to doing that.
Governor, as of January 20th, a rare moment. It doesn't happen that often, not only in our lifetime, but often in general. And that is that Republicans will have the presidency, they will have the Senate, they will have the House. It wasn't that long ago, the people were flipping out, Governor. You were on board from the beginning, but there were people getting, squishy and, oh, my God, Donald's going to cost the Senate. He might even cost the House, and then we're going to lose the presidency. Well, it went just the opposite. He had coattails. He won the presidency in an electoral landslide. We keep the Senate, which is amazing, and they barely picked up single digits, a few seats, the other party, in a year that was ripe for major pickups. So Republicans, as of January 20th, will have the majority of all three, the presidency, the House, and the Senate. So I've been saying to our listeners, Governor, this is a time where the American people, they voted for change. They also voted for action. And if they don't get it done, then you know what's going to happen in 2 years.
Sure. And listen, with great opportunity comes great responsibility. And our party now, who has been talking about the things that we want to do as a party for quite some time and saying that we were stifled by President Obama, well, we now have an opportunity to work together and to types of programs and approaches to our country. And so now's our time to do it. So, yes, it's a time of great celebration down here at the Republican Governors Association. We're celebrating our governors. We're celebrating the fact that one of our colleagues is now Vice President-elect of the United States, and that we have a new president coming in January. But, the time starts now to prepare ourselves for what will be coming in January and for delivering for the American people. Because you're right. I mean, we have to be judged by our results, and I'm confident that the American people will judge us by our results.
Governor, I don't want to put any pressure on you, but you could literally make right here and now the beginning of my second quarter of a century as the mayor of the morning. If you made earth-shattering news here on Hurley in the Morning, are you going to fulfill your term as governor, or will you be leaving us for our nation's capital?
I have every intention of staying, Harry. But listen, I've said this right from the beginning because I've been getting these questions ever since I endorsed Donald at the end of February of 2016 about whether I would leave to go to Washington, and the fact is that that was never part of my desire in doing this. I just wanted to get the best person in the White House, and now you'll have the media every day, as you can see, speculating with drama from unnamed sources about you're up, you're down, you're up, you're down. None of that stuff really matters. I can just tell you this. I've spoken to the president-elect often in the last 6 days, and what I've said to him is what I'll say to you, which is if there's a way that I can be helpful, that's meaningful, that Mary Pat and I will consider it. But I can tell you this, people forget that those of us in public life are also human beings. We have 2 children who are in school in northern New Jersey as we speak. Our son Patrick is now a 10th grader. If you can imagine, he was a 3rd grader when I was sworn into the governorship. Our daughter Bridget is an 8th grader. She was a 1st grader when I was sworn into the governorship. These are very sensitive times for kids. And so, we have a lot of big decisions to make about where our family would be headquartered and all the rest, and wanting my kids to stay in the schools they're in and all that. So it's not just a decision about my career and my future. It's about my family's future and their comfort and their potential. And it's also about the comfort, potential, and future of the people of the state of New Jersey who gave me 8 years. So I'll try to balance all those things if I have a decision to make. But all those initial decisions are made by the president-elect. He knows after 14 years that no matter what he decides, we're going to be friends. And as I was there to help him during the campaign, I'll be there to help him as president. Whether that means I'll decide to take a position if offered in the administration is something that will probably get decided sometime in the next 65 days or so.
Governor, I know you got to run in a second. I just want to give you an opportunity to answer a final question because I had a great interview with you a long time ago on this topic. I was convinced from the beginning that you had nothing to do with this Bridgegate thing. You maintained that from the beginning. You did an exhaustive press conference where you literally wore out the media, where they couldn't even repeat the same question 10 more times. They literally, I never saw them like this before. They didn't have another word they could say because you kept saying, I'm not leaving until every question is answered. I'll stay here as long as you want. It was whatever it was, 2 hours or whatever it was. We did a very definitive interview on air. I'm absolutely convinced, and I've said this to everybody, both on and off air, you didn't know about it. From the second it came up, you did exactly what a person in your position that did not have something to do with something would do. You disciplined people that were involved. You let the system play out. You maintained the fact that you did not know about it before or during what happened. You sustained the most aggressive national media assault on this type of topic that I think anybody in the history of the Republic has ever had to deal with. Your version of everything withstood legal controlling authority scrutiny, media scrutiny, but yet you've endured, every time somebody wants to write about it or speak about it on television or on radio where they say these things. How tough has that been on you, on Mary Pat, on the children, when that keeps coming up again and again and again? And I almost want to apologize because I'm doing it now, but what has that been like?
Well, first of all, Harry, let me just say this. On January 8th, 2014, when some of these events were revealed to me through reports in the media, I had a very short period of time to make some decisions. And I made the decisions I thought were best at the time. I fired Bridget Kelly, who had been serving as my deputy chief of staff, and I had already had Bill Baroni and David Wildstein leave the Port Authority, which had been something I'd been planning for months. And I determined in my own mind that those were the people who were most likely responsible for what happened. I then ordered an internal investigation, which has turned out to be correct. That internal investigation said that the responsible parties were David Wildstein, Bill Baroni, and Bridget Kelly. Then the Democratic-led legislature had an investigation and hearings, and they concluded that Bridget Kelly, Bill Baroni, and David Wildstein were most likely the ones responsible. Then a 15-month investigation by the Democratic-led U.S. Attorney's Office, which led to charges against David Wildstein, who pled guilty, and Bill Baroni and Bridget Kelly. And all during that time, Harry, I have been completely cooperative, have not asserted any of the privileges that I was entitled to assert, did not say, no, I wouldn't talk to the U.S. Attorney's Office. Didn't do any of that. I had nothing to hide, and I cooperated fully. And now we've had the spectacle of a 6-week trial that led, unfortunately, for them and their families, to the conviction of those two people, and now very likely, depending upon the judge's decision in February, jail sentences for both of them. I'm saddened by that because, I never want to see anybody go to prison. But also, I think people have to acknowledge a few things. The first is the judgment that I made in January of 2014 were proven to be right. After 3 investigations, the 3 people that I held responsible in January of 14, held responsible by the National Report in March of 14, held responsible later in the year by the legislature, and then ultimately held responsible by the U.S. Attorney's Office, were held responsible by a federal jury in New York. And secondly, people all along said, and many of my detractors and doubters said, well, we'll wait to see what the U.S. Attorney's Office does. We'll wait to see then whether the governor has any responsibility. I've always had faith in the justice system, Harry, and that's why after being a U.S. attorney for 7 years, I did not at any point go out there and start speaking because I wanted the trial to be a fair one. I didn't want to be accused of trying to influence it in any way. And because I didn't know whether I would be called as a witness or not, I didn't want to do anything to prejudice the case of the government or to prejudice the case of the 2 defendants. So I took a beating and sat by silently saying, I'll put my faith in the system because if in fact these folks are found guilty, then people will know that my judgment's been exonerated. Unfortunately, those with a partisan agenda, both in the state legislature and in the media, who covered this thing in an incredibly partisan way. Now, because the result, no matter what would have happened, they would have continued to blame me. Now, listen, Harry, I'm accountable for the fact that some people on my watch did things that a jury is now found to have been illegal, and that's why I fired them. But when you're a leader, that's the best you can do. 60,000 people work for me every day. I cannot be assured of what each one of them is doing each and every day. I try to set the good example, and I try to set down the rules the way they should be. But in the end, let me say this. It's been an enormously difficult time for me, for Mary Pat, for our kids, to read every day in the media untruths and mischaracterizations, not only of me and what I've done, but selective reporting from inside the courtroom. You would think, look at what happened in the trial, Harry. I mean, 7 different people walked into the courtroom and testified contradicting Bridget Kelly's testimony. Yet, now for certain aspects of the media, Bridget Kelly has been convicted of a crime, and who the U.S. attorney said lied on the stand is being treated as if her words are gospel truth. It's just not the case, and logical people know that, but this is the way it works in public life sometimes. In the end, I know who I am. I know what I've done and what I haven't done. I've led the state with honesty and with integrity, and my family has served the state with dignity. And so we, keep our heads held high because we know we've done nothing wrong. And so it's good that this is the end of this episode now. It's over. The state can put it behind all of us, and I'm going to continue over the next 14 months to serve in the way I've done for all the months before that, which is I came in loud, I will go out loud, I will continue to try to work hard to make a difference.
Governor, I've never taken for granted the interviews that you have granted to me over the many years that we've known each other, and I often, proudly state that we're friends. We're always going to be friends. We were friends before you were governor. We've been friends while you're governor. We're going to be friends when you're not governor any longer after you serve your 2 terms or go to our nation's capital. But I just have to wonder, how much did this, and it's so unfair because I'm absolutely convinced that you had no involvement before, or during any of this, and you took the action that you did when you became aware of it, and it has held up to every level of scrutiny that you intellectually, honestly just outlined, in absolute truth. How much did this hurt your run for president?
One will never know, Harry. I mean, like I said, there's a magic and a mystery to politics, and you never know. It didn't help, that's for sure. And so, one doesn't know. But in the end, I don't spend a lot of time in my life looking in the rearview mirror. If you do, you'll wind up becoming at times bitter and angry when things haven't gone your way. And other times you'll become full of hubris when things do go your way. I try. I'm not, by far and away, I'm not perfect. But what I try to do is continue to keep my eyes fixed on the horizon. What the next challenge is, what the next opportunity is, what the next problem is to solve, rather than spending my time looking in the rearview mirror. So I hope all of us will stop looking in the rearview mirror now and not play the woulda, coulda, shoulda game, because there's no upside, not only for me, but for anybody else, in my view, in their own individual lives, to be doing that. God gives us each day as an enormous gift. And we need to use each day that we get as a gift in a way that honors the fact that God's given us the opportunity to be on this earth, to be with the people we love, and in the right circumstances, to have the opportunity to serve others. And that's what I've tried to do, and so I don't spend a lot of time looking back.
Governor, if you do not become a member of President Trump's cabinet, what do you hope to accomplish in the last year? And I promise I've kept you way too long. What do you hope to accomplish?
Well, listen, we have a lot to do. We started off this conversation talking about Atlantic City, and I intend to do everything I can to help Senator Chiesa and the local officials in Atlantic City get Atlantic City on a fiscally responsible track so that businesses that are there now can afford to stay there, people who are there now can afford to stay there, and then others will want to come in and invest in and live in Atlantic City. I'd love to continue to be on the track of fiscal responsibility. Really now, as we made our deal regarding the Transportation Trust Fund to rebuild our infrastructure in New Jersey in a way that we've done all throughout my time as governor, spending before over $3.2 billion a year on infrastructure. Now we'll be spending over $4 billion a year on infrastructure because of that. Want to make sure that we continue to make changes in our educational system that will give kids, no matter where they live, a chance to have a life-changing education for themselves, to make themselves proud with opportunity and their families as well. Definitely want to look at ways that we continue to keep taxes contained in the state so that it can be a more affordable place, and to make the hard decisions that need to be made and to populate our state's judiciary and other places with quality people who will continue to remember that their first and most important job is to serve the people of the state when they get that opportunity. So all those things I'll have a chance to do, and it'll be good to go through a political season coming up in 2017 where I'm not only not on the ballot, but not having to worry about those things, and that the people of the state freely choose my successor, and then do everything I can to make sure that that successor gets a good start so that he or she can continue to lead the state in a way that'll make me happy and proud to live here.
Governor Christie, in the spirit of this giving season and the season of Thanksgiving, I want to thank you for our relationship. I want to wish you and Mary Pat, Andrew, Sarah, Patrick, and Bridget a blessed Thanksgiving, and I'm sure we'll speak before Christmas, so I won't wish you a Merry Christmas, but thanks for our relationship, Governor.
Well, Harry, thank you, and thank you for being a voice of reason in the region, somebody who always shoots straight, tells it like it is, calls them as you see them, and that's why, you are the mayor of the morning. That's why people tune in every morning to listen to you. and why I felt it was really important to call in this morning. I wish you and your family a happy Thanksgiving as well. There's much to be thankful for, and we should be thankful for things like we have here in our state and the opportunities that God gives us. And so I look forward to talking to you again before Christmas, Harry, and to your listeners and to all the listeners out there. As I say all the time, I thank them for the great honor, privilege, and opportunity it is to be the governor of the state where I was born and raised.
Governor, thank you, sir. Have a great day. Have a good time there.
Thank you, Harry. You take care of yourself.
You do the same, sir. Our governor, Chris Christie. I'll be back in just a few minutes. Stay with us.
WPG Talk Radio 104.1.